Okay, and we're good to go. Yeah, that was very quick. Sometimes it used to take about 2 minutes to do. Now we're professionals. Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay. The final then application on today's agenda, number 44, which involves a request to sever and 2 related minor variance applications. Okay, on this application, the panel has before it the following. Copy of survey site plan, floor plans, elevations as submitted for lots 1 and 2. Copy draft plan of survey. Copy of the minutes from a March 2nd, 2022 public hearing. Comparable lot footages from the agent. Presentation slides from the agent, received 23 March. We have email correspondence from City Planning and staff reports from Engineering and Construction, Urban Forestry, and Urban Forestry once again, both in February and March. There is opposition, written opposition from 234 CEDRIC, from Chow Duong, and from Pedro Martins at 234 CEDRIC, and also from Anthony Trinka and Blake Mido of 238 CEDRIC. We shall now ask the applicant to join us, please, by stating your name.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members. Ida Evangelista on behalf of the owners of 236 CEDRIC.
Good evening to you.
Good evening. Yeah. Oh, yes, it is. Mr. Chair, you mentioned that there was a report from planning. However, I'm not seeing anything on the website.
Okay.
But because we worked very closely with planning, as you could see.
I'm sorry.
You know what? I'll get into my.
It's easy. I'm sorry. No, there's not a staff report from planning. I didn't say that. I said there,
okay.
There's email correspondence from the assistant planner of community planning at City Planning, dated way back to September 2021. Then the other things I mentioned did amount to staff reports.
Yes, Mr. Chair, yes, because we worked quite closely and carefully with Catherine. We modified the application as you have in front of you. They are very satisfied. We actually complied with, all their requests. And I just want to give you a quick, can I just do a quick presentation?
Go ahead, please.
So right now, this is an area. It's new, upcoming area. It's a well sought after area. In this neighborhood, there's an older mix of semi-detached, triplexes, single-family homes, multi-unit structures. So we have, it's quite an eclectic area. The height in this neighborhood is 11 meters with 3 stories. And as you can see from the package that I submitted, you can see that, what we are asking for is consistent and very, very characteristic to what the neighborhood is transpiring into. So that being said, I know the neighbors are concerned about the right-of-ways. So I would just like to state right off the start is that the right-of-ways, we will not be obstructing the right-of-ways. On the south side, we have the right-of-way plus a 4.58. So we're going to have a side yard setback in total, right-of-way plus the 4.48, a total side yard setback of 1.01. And on the north side, we will not be obstructing the right-of-way. So now let's go into our variances. So we do have a main wall height variance, and that main wall height variance, as you can see from page 6 of my submission, That is the main wall height because it is a flat roof, and that's taken from the established grade to the top of the roof. But working with planning, they asked us, and that's why you'll also see the articulation at the front of the building. So it has many step backs at the front and at the back. So it doesn't give you that big boxy feeling. It actually, with all the step backs, the articulation, it really softens the building. So that's our main wall height. The variances that I show you on page 5, which relates to the 0, because our stairs, it is a semi-detached home. The stairs are, it's right at the lot line, and that's what, why we have that variance, because what we've done is to save the city tree, we've put the driveways on the outside of the perimeter, outside of the 2 lots. And we have the staircase in the middle. But as you can see from the site plan, we've stepped back lot 1 and lot 2. And again, that takes you away. So optically, from the street, it'll look like a 2-story home because the 3rd floor will be set right back. So that's our variances for lot 1 and 2. You'll see that in this neighborhood, it's changed a lot, and it is, it keeps, transforming over the years, over the day, actually over the weeks. There's, as I mentioned, it's quite the new sought-after area. And what we're proposing here is not any different than what you see in the neighborhood. We do have, I know our FSI, we are asking for just a slight increase in FSI. 180 CEDRIC, they received a 1.11 FSI. 182 CEDRIC received a 0.95 FSI. 162 received a 0.98. 201 received a 1.33. And if you see, there's a picture in my submission that is literally directly across the street. And they have an FSI of 1.03. And they have side yard setbacks of 0.76, and we're asking for 1.01 on the south and 0.48 on the north. So with that being said, Mr. Chair, members, I respectfully submit that what we are proposing is very characteristic to what is transpiring in this neighborhood. This is a neighborhood that is growing. We are, this design is reinforcing the characteristic and the character of the existing neighborhood. And in my opinion, the variances that we are asking for respectfully meets the 4 tests.
Thank you very much. Any questions at this stage, panel, for the applicant? Ms. Hayes, go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much, and thank you for your presentation material. Just one question at this point of time. In the pictures that you have provided of, similar built forms, some of them you've indicated the permissions or variances they require. My specific question at this point of time is, of the pictures that you have provided, which of those, if any, are the lot frontages or lot areas that are comparable to the subject application?
So on page 8, they are 16
So which of the addresses is it? My presentation doesn't have page numbers.
No, okay. My
So I'm looking at the pictures you've got on surrounding context.
Right. So on surrounding context, which is 215 and 217 CEDRIC,
yes.
That lot is very slightly larger than our lot.
What's slightly?
Probably about, I'll tell you 1 second.
Yeah, I mean, I know
just
pictures
shy,
can be
just shy
deceiving,
of it. Yeah, it's just shy of a meter.
For each lot?
Um,
Combined.
no, through you, Mr. Chair, no, Madam, no, in total,
Okay.
the total
Thank you.
lot frontage, okay? Then we'll go to the next page, 160 A and B CEDRIC. That lot size is the same. 162 CEDRIC, that lot size is the same. We have below there is 14 and 16 Holland. 16 is the same. And next adjacent to 166, 168 CEDRIC, 166 is the same. And then we'll go to the next page. 185 is the same. 180 is the same. And yeah, so, and what I've provided through you, Mr. Chair, member, I've only provided a sprinkling because I could have, shown you 20 pages.
No, thank you very much. And I
pictures
do,
in the area.
yeah, I do always appreciate that you give us presentation material. It's just, on a couple of them, you gave us the statistics, but the statistics weren't on everything else. So I want to be able to know from context. Thank you.
I have a question.
Well, thank you for pointing that out because I'll actually do that on the next round should it come up.
Yeah, well, my question
For future projects.
my question,
Yes,
applicant,
sir.
at this stage to you, is, of the examples you've shown us, one of the big things to me is which ones of those are on substandard size lots, and which ones are on lots that did not need variances. In other words, lots that were.
Mr.
Is
Chair,
this
they
a-
all needed variances.
They all needed variances.
They all needed. They did. Yeah,
Okay. All right.
they did.
Thank you. Let's go on then. We have some speakers to hear from. Okay. Moderator, who's with us first?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we only have Mr. Martins in the attendance.
Okay.
So I can put him through.
Please.
Pedro, you've been unmuted.
Yeah, hi, it's Pedro Martins, 234 Cedric Avenue.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Chair, before I start with my speech here, there's some discrepancies on the draft R drawing concerning the measurements of the right-of-ways. Like the survey shows that the right-of-way is 0.53 meters wide by 22.86 meters long. And on the draft R drawing, it shows that it's 0.58 wide. So there's a discrepancy there.
Well, we can ask the applicant to address that.
Yes, and there's one more question I'd like to direct to you, Mr. Chair, is the side yard setback. I believe it's measured from the property line to the home that is being constructed or the home that is in existence, and not between the two houses. Am I correct?
Mr. Martins, your opportunity here is to address questions not to the panel, but rather to the applicant. So please address
Okay.
you can address that question
Sorry.
to the applicant too.
Okay, sorry.
Go ahead.
I'd like to put that to the applicant then, sorry.
Okay, well, we'll do that, but we're going to let you have your time now, and then
Okay.
then we'll go back to the applicant for her responses.
Okay, thank you. All right. Like I stated, my name is Pedro Martins. I am the owner of 234 Cedric Avenue and the resident. I am the neighbor directly to the south of 236. I'm opposed to the request to sever and the requested variances. I'll give you some reasons why. First, I'll address the request to sever. On my block, this was done once before. The address was 215 Cedric Avenue. We were speaking about it earlier. This was a small bungalow similar to the one at 236 and my own. It was sitting on a double lot. This house had this house didn't require a second address. It's a double wide lot. The semis that were built on this lot are really wide, beautiful, nice semis that add value to the neighborhood. They're very nice. And they were built at 0.6 meters from the lot lines. And what's being proposed at 236 Cedric Avenue is not the same. 236 is a single lot, not a double lot. And concerning the other homes on the street, a lot of those homes were built on existing foundations. They didn't require variances for side yard setbacks. I believe all their variances were height related. And now I'll move on to my objection to the variances. Concerning variance number 3, the lot frontage being asked is, the lot frontage required by the bylaw is 6 meters. The applicant is requesting 5.2 meters. 5.2 meters will not accommodate a mid-size SUV or family sedan. Cars parked in front of this house, in front of these houses, in the driveway, in front of these garages, will be overhanging onto the sidewalk. I see this a lot as I walk around the neighborhood. And now concerning variance number 5, allowing a 0.48 meter setback is unacceptable in this situation. On the north lot line of 236 Cedric Avenue, there is the right-of-way that we have been discussing that is 0.53 meters wide by 22.86 meters long. Now, if you were to allow a 0.48 meter setback, that would put the house directly on the right-of-way. I don't know how else to explain that. 0.48 and 0.53, there is an overlap there. The house will be sitting on the right-of-way. And now on the south lot line, allowing a 0.48 meter setback will be a fire risk to 234 Cedric Avenue, as 234 has 2 basement windows at 17 by 30 inches and 1 window above the ground level at 48 by 58 inches. They directly face the south lot line at 236 Cedric Avenue. A 1.5 meter setback that is the current bylaw should be maintained on the south lot line. 234 Cedric Avenue is a brick bungalow with no insulation or fire-rated drywall.
I have to ask you now to make your final comments, please.
Okay. The separation of 234 and 236 should be maintained as not to have a fire risk. And the request to keep the right-of-way as a walkway, the right-of-way is only 0.53 of a meter. And according to the bylaw, a walkway should be no less than 1 meter in width and free of obstruction. I have window wells that are in that proposed walkway. So that will be an obstruction. That's all I'd like to say with the time I'm allowed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, any questions for the next door neighbor? Okay, then, let's go back to the applicant, who will ask to address the questions and the issues that were raised only by the applicant, or by the speaker next door. Agent?
Mr. Chair, the comments that were made regarding the survey, that is, the survey and the R plan were both prepared by a registered legal surveyor. They go in, they have their, their equipment, they put in their monuments, they do actual research going back to way back when, the homes were built. So I don't believe that, we are in a position to question an Ontario land surveyor. So that's, as I mentioned from the very beginning, there are right-of-ways on both the north side and the south side, and they will be unobstructed. As we know, right-of-ways have to be unobstructed from the ground to the sky, which they will continue to do so. Now, I understand Pedro, number 234, on the south side, I understand he has concerns, but as he said, we can't be no less than 1 meter. But I would like to add, and most importantly, is that we have 0.48 of our side yard setback, but then we have another 0.53 of the right-of-way. So between the wall of Lot 2 to the wall of 234 is 1.01 meters. So we are well enough away. As I mentioned again, I cannot stress, that those right-of-ways will be unobstructed. I can't speak to, we've gone through all the area research. I provided you all the lot frontages. We see and we know that, there are many homes, and I know, through you, Mr. Chair, you yourself and the members, you drive through the neighborhood. You've seen how the neighborhood has changed over time and will continue to change over time. The lot across the street was not a double lot. It's very similar to the lot size, as I mentioned, at the onset. There are many lots that are the size or smaller than what we're proposing. So in closing, I strongly, with respect and respectfully submit that the information that we have, and I'd like to stress to the owner of 234 that, both north and south will be unobstructed. This is very consistent. We'll live harmoniously with other homes in the neighborhood as all the other 3-story, 11-meter homes are. So with this, Mr. Chair, I hope I've addressed the comments, and I respectfully submit that what we are proposing is very characteristic to the neighborhood. We'll live harmoniously with other homes in the neighborhood. As you have seen, it is widespread throughout CEDRIC and Robina and Holland. And in closing, I will take any further questions that you may have for me.
Well, I'll begin on that. So this application was deferred in order to correct the legal description, but there was also another purpose was assigned to the deferral, and that was to allow you to confer with 234. Can you tell us what the nature of those consultations was?
We did. We did consult. We went back and forth. I did. We communicated through email. I did show sketches, as I did in part of my presentation, where I highlighted what the south side yard setback was going to be, and then plus the right-of-way with a description. Now, he mentioned the 0.58, but the 0.58 is at the mouth of at the road, right? So it's on a diagonal. And again, an Ontario land surveyor, he was, that came from him. That didn't come from us. That came from a registered legal Ontario land surveyor. But through you, Mr. Chair, we did confer back and forth. We absolutely did.
Thank you very much.
He can actually attest to that.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, panel members, for the applicant? I'll raise another question then, okay. The issue of massing. The issue of massing. If I was in one of those bungalows, I would certainly be concerned about the massing that your proposal represents. So explain to me why this massing should be considered desirable.
Mr. Chair, I understand your question. So that's why, myself and Catherine, we worked very, very closely with the designer and another colleague. And for that reason, we have all the step backs, all the articulation in the front of the home, so that it's not this big square box, at the onset. Like if you're standing at the street, when you're walking by, you're looking at articulation. You're looking at a front facade that has various step backs and pop outs. And the third story, you're not even going to see it because it's recessed quite far back. So that was what, and as you can see, we submitted quite some time ago, and we went through many redesigns to satisfy planning. And what you have in front of you, I believe that it is one of the, I don't like to say this, but it's one of the far better designs that will be on the street because the articulation, the different, textures of the home, it will not appear as a big, huge mass of a home. It will actually be very complementary, aesthetically beautiful to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
And
Panel members, any other questions? Okay, then on this one, if there are no further questions then for the applicant, we can take this application into committee for these applications into committee for a motion. I think we can, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, can we handle the severance and the two minor variance applications as one?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's correct. You can deal with all three applications at the same time.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just going to provide some comments. I believe that the overall massing looks like it's a very large building. If you look at the building across the street, when you look at that, if that is what the applicant is suggesting, this is what they're proposing, to me, it looks out of scale for the context of the immediate area. I'm sorry, are we in committee?
We are in committee.
Oh, great.
So
And to me, it looks like a 3 to 4 story building from when you look at it from the street view. And to me, that's what the proposal looks like as well. And I feel it is out of scale with the immediate context of the area.
Okay. Further comment? Mr. Cheng, go ahead.
I was going to say something similar to what Nimrod was going to say, is if we don't look at it as two semi-detached, it's just one single house. I mean, that's how it is going to be perceived from the street. And I can see that I agree with the applicant that they're doing their best to minimize the impact, but yeah, as you can see, it's almost, I mean, they're trying to shave the corners and recreate the roof, but the overall, because of the way how the two semi-detached are combined together, it creates a very huge frontage. And no matter how you trim the edges of the roof or the back, you still give that very tremendous front wall. And it usually makes sense in the denser area, almost like a row house type of streetscape. In this context, unless we agree that this street is appropriate for that, and this will be the first pioneer project. And I'm trying to figure out if that's the case and if that trend is appropriate here. Other than that, if we're just looking at the site context, it is extremely large.
Ms. Hayes, go ahead.
Thank you. As I mentioned, I always appreciate that we at least have some context material presented. But my observation is sometimes context has to include all the elements of the application being requested. I acknowledge that there's a lot of development in this area. We're not bound by precedent per se. I think the height, I appreciate the articulation of the semi so that it doesn't, they're proposing that it not read as a solid front wall or a solid rear wall. I appreciate that. However, I think cumulatively, the variances is in the size of the lot. I think it is overwhelming for the property in question. And I don't think it meets the tests under the Planning Act. I acknowledge that there are other developments within the area. Some of those are, when I look at them in scale, I'm not sure that they're necessarily a great example of intensification either, but everybody has a different opinion. On this particular application, I think the sidewall height is a tremendous concern to me. Individually, but cumulatively, I just think there is too much when you look at the accumulated sorry, it's late. The accumulated impact of creating those semis on these lots with all the variances being requested. In totality, I believe it's too much, and I don't believe I can conclude that it meets the tests under the Planning Act. Those would be my comments.
Thank you for those. For my part, I'm asking myself, is this development sensitive to the immediate context of that block of the street, or is it in conflict with it? And to my mind, it is in conflict with that immediate context. It is not sensitive to it, so I won't be supporting it either. I'll look to someone for a motion, please. Mr. Salomon, go ahead.
Yeah, I would move a motion of refusal of the severance and also refusal of the variances for both parts.
Is there a second for that motion? It is seconded by Mr. Chang. So, moved and seconded to refuse the severance and the two related minor variance applications. All those in favor, show of hands, please. That vote is unanimous to carry the motion. And with that, the severance and the two related minor variance applications are refused. And with that, it is 7:37 p.m. and the panel completes today's agenda. And I'm always impressed by the panel, by the level of your preparation, your ability to maintain sharp focus on the detail. It's all about detail until well into the evening. To staff, thank you very much as well for all the preparation it takes to pull off an event like this with this many applications, and for the good support in terms of the materials shown and keeping all those applicants on standby, and the other speakers. So with that, the hearing is terminated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you.